A Navy commander, a member of the SEALs, is rushed into the emergency room hovering between life and death, bleeding, furious, barely conscious. He refuses every doctor who tries to touch him. He curses, he threatens, he demands someone actually qualified. When the new nurse steps forward, he shoves her back with open contempt. "Get your hands off me. You're just a nurse." She doesn't argue. She takes one step back, keeps her head lowered, lets the doctors take over, and fail, one by one, as the cardiac monitor erupts in alarms and his vital signs crash towards zero. Then it happens. At the exact second he loses consciousness, she moves. No permission, no announcement. She calmly pulls back the left sleeve of her uniform. The room falls silent. On her forearm is something no civilian should carry. The golden seal trident, inked beside the unit number where she once served as an elite combat surgeon in classified operations. The commander's eyes flicker open for a split second. He sees it, and he freezes. The 4 SEALs standing in the trauma bay recognize it before the doctors understand what they're witnessing. Instinctively, they snap to attention and salute the nurse. The doctors stand motionless, speechless, because in that moment, the just a nurse was the only person in the room capable of saving his life. Before you read, if you've ever been judged before anyone knew who you really were, like this nurse is about to be, drop a SEAL in the comments. And if you stay until the salute, share this with someone who needs to see it. The radio crackled at 14:32. Incoming, GSW, multiple, ETA 4 minutes, 1 critical. Harrison Webb set down his coffee and didn't look up from his phone. Who's on Trauma Bay 1? The charge nurse checked the board. Carter, the new one. Webb finally looked up. The new one, he repeated. Not a question, a verdict. Margaret Carter heard him from across the nurses' station. She always heard. She had trained herself to hear everything within 40 feet, a habit she had never been able to unlearn, no matter how many years had passed, no matter how many quiet shifts she had worked since leaving the life behind. She said nothing. She adjusted the ID badge clipped to her oversized navy blue scrubs and walked toward Trauma Bay 1 without being asked. That was another habit she hadn't unlearned. She was 31 years old, 5'6". Lean in the way that people who have carried weight for long distances are lean, not the gym kind, not the runner kind, the kind that comes from necessity. Her dark brown hair was pulled back in a loose bun, the kind that looked careless, though nothing about Margaret Carter was careless. Her gray-blue eyes swept the trauma bay once, cataloging everything. The defibrillator charge status, the supply cart layout, the angle of the overhead surgical light, the distance from the door to the crash cart. She did it in under 3 seconds. Then she set her face back to neutral and waited. Webb appeared in the doorway behind her. This is a level 1 trauma bay, Carter, not a checkup station. I know what it is, she said. Then you know this case is above your pay grade before it even rolls in. She didn't answer. He wasn't wrong about her pay grade. He was very wrong about everything else. The ambulance bay doors blew open at 14:36. Margaret counted 4 men before the gurney came through. They weren't patients. They moved like a formation, tight, controlled, scanning every corner of the room the moment they entered. 2 wore civilian clothes that fit wrong, the fabric pulling at the shoulders in ways that civilian fabric shouldn't pull. 1 wore a naval base visitor badge that hadn't been checked in through the main entrance. The 4th held the gurney rail and kept his eyes on the man strapped to it. Margaret looked at the 4th man's hands, knuckles scarred. 1 finger previously broken, healed without proper setting. Grip on the gurney rail, not panicked, controlled. But the tendons in his forearm were standing out like cables, which meant the control was costing him something. She shifted her attention to the man on the gurney. He was big, even strapped down and compromised. He was obviously big, broad through the chest and shoulders, the kind of build that didn't come from a weight room alone. Mid-40s. Short hair, sand and silver at the temples. A jaw that looked like it had stopped more than one thing it shouldn't have. 2 IVs already running both arms. O2 mask in place, but he'd pushed it to the side. Blood pressure cuff alarming. The paramedic at his head looked like she had been verbally assaulted every mile of the drive and was very relieved to hand this problem to someone else. The wound was left lateral chest, below the 5th rib. The field dressing was soaked through. Margaret saw the depth of the soak. She estimated blood loss. She did the arithmetic in under 4 seconds, the same way she had been doing it since a training instructor had drilled it into her until it was faster than conscious thought. The man on the gurney was not going to survive the next 20 minutes without intervention. He was also, at this exact moment, actively trying to sit up. "Get these off me." His voice was a command, not a request, not a plea, a command that expected immediate compliance. "Get them off, now." The paramedic started. "Sir, you need to remain—" "I said get them off." Webb stepped forward in the manner of someone used to being the largest authority in any room. "Sir, I'm Dr. Harrison Webb, head of trauma surgery. You're at Coastal Regional Medical Center. You have a significant penetrating chest wound and we need to—" "I know what I have." The man's eyes were tracking the room, cataloging, the same way Margaret had done, but with a different edge. Threat assessment, not logistical. His gaze moved across Webb, dismissed him, moved to the 4 men who had come in with him. Something passed between them, nonverbal, coded. "Get me someone qualified, not a civilian." Webb's jaw tightened. "I assure you, sir, I am more than— You have soft hands and a country club tan." The man's voice hadn't risen, which somehow made it worse. "You've never worked a field wound in your life, I can tell from here." One of the 4 men, the one with the visitor badge, stepped closer. "Commander." His voice was low, careful. "We need to let them work." "Stand down, Petty Officer." "Commander Voss." "That's an order." Petty Officer stood down. His jaw worked once. He stood down. Commander Voss tried again to sit up. The monitors screamed. His blood pressure had dropped another 8 points while they had been talking. His O2 saturation was declining. His face was gray under the tan, the kind of gray that Margaret had seen before in places she no longer thought about during the day. Only at night. Webb turned to the room. "Someone get Dr. Patel in here, and someone call Dr. Morrison." "Morrison's in surgery," a resident offered. "Then get him out." Webb turned back to the commander with the practiced authority of a man who had never been told no by anyone who genuinely frightened him. "Sir, I understand you're uncomfortable. But I am the senior trauma surgeon in this facility and I need you to— You need to call someone who knows what a sucking chest wound looks like before the body bag closes around them. That's what you need." The room went a degree quieter. Webb's face went a color that Margaret recognized as the early stage of an ego beginning to separate from its moorings. She had already moved to the supply cart. Not dramatically, not fast, just moved. The way she moved in scrubs was one of the things she had worked very hard on since leaving the program. She had learned to make herself smaller, slower. Civilian. It required effort. The way speaking a second language fluently in a country not your own required effort. And occasionally, when she was tired or frightened, the accent slipped. She pulled on gloves and moved to the left side of the gurney. Commander Voss's eyes found her. He looked at her the way men like him looked at things that needed to be assessed and dismissed in the same breath. "Who are you?" "I'm your nurse." "I didn't ask what you are. I asked who." "Margaret Carter." "Carter." He said her name the way you repeat a word you don't believe is real. "You're a nurse." "Yes." "Then step back." "I don't need a nurse, I need a surgeon." "You need about 90 seconds of work before a surgeon is relevant," she said. Her voice was quiet, even. "You're running a left-sided tension component, and your trachea is going to shift if we don't decompress. After that, we can argue about the surgeon." Voss stared at her. Something moved across his face, too fast to name. Then it was gone, replaced by the wall. Step back. She didn't step back. She reached for the dressing and he caught her wrist. His grip was hard, harder than it should have been from a man who had lost this much blood, which told her something about his baseline that she already suspected. The room held its breath. Webb made a sound. Margaret looked down at the hand on her wrist. Then she looked up at Commander Voss. "Sir," she said, "I am going to ask you to let go." Then ask. Let go. He didn't let go. His grip was still hard, but his face was doing something complicated. His O2 sat dropped another point. The monitor announced it. His blood pressure number on the screen behind him was a number that Margaret had seen precede unconsciousness before, more than once, in locations no one in this room had ever been. She did not pull her arm back. She did not call for help. She stood with his hand on her wrist and held his eyes and waited, the way she had learned to wait in rooms far more dangerous than this one. "I have done this before," she said. "I know what I'm doing. You're a nurse in a hospital 40 miles from Coronado." His voice had gone lower, rougher. The gray in his face was getting worse. "You have no idea what you're doing with a man like me." She said nothing. "Let the surgeons work," he said. "Let someone qualified in here, someone who's been somewhere, seen something, someone who knows what it actually costs." His grip loosened slightly, not from surrender but from blood loss he couldn't stop regardless of how hard his will was pushing against it. Not some girl in scrubs. Margaret Carter looked at Commander Voss for one long moment. Then, with her free hand, she reached across her body and pushed the sleeve of her left arm up to the elbow. She turned her forearm toward him. The tattoo was not large. It sat on the inside of her forearm, precise and deliberate, the lines clean despite the years. A golden trident. Below it, in small block letters, the unit designation. Below that, a date. Commander Voss's grip on her wrist went slack. His eyes dropped to the tattoo, stayed there. The machine behind him alarmed again, and he did not look at it. He did not look at Webb. He did not look at his men, though she heard the shift in the room when they saw what he was seeing. He looked at the tattoo. His face did something she had not expected from a man like him. It broke, just for a second. Then the wall came back up. But she had seen it. The part that had been holding everything rigid. The command and the aggression and the contempt. It cracked, the way ice cracks when the thing beneath it finally pushes through. "You served," he said. It was not a question. "Team support surgical. 3 deployments." She kept her voice level. "I know what your wound cost. I know what it means that you're still talking. And I know exactly what I'm doing, Commander Voss." Behind her, she heard it before she saw it. The sound of 4 men moving, precise, simultaneous. She didn't need to look. She knew the sound. She was already pulling on the dressing. But the silence in the room had changed completely. She didn't look at the salute. She knew it was happening. She heard it. 4 men snapping to attention simultaneously makes a specific sound. The kind of sound that has no civilian equivalent. The kind that goes straight to a part of the brain that doesn't process language. She had heard it before. She had stood on both sides of it. She kept her eyes on the wound and her hands moving, and she did not look. Webb looked. Webb looked the way a man looks when the floor beneath him turns out to be a ceiling. His mouth opened, closed. He took 1 step backward without appearing to realize he had done it. The resident beside him, young, 3rd year, good instincts, bad poker face, went completely still with a fresh pair of gloves halfway onto his hands. The charge nurse behind the crash cart pressed her lips together and said nothing, which was the most professional response in the room. Commander Voss had not saluted back. He couldn't. Both arms had IVs. His left hand had just released Margaret's wrist and dropped to the gurney rail, and was gripping it now for a different reason than before. His eyes were still on her forearm, on the trident, on the date beneath it, That meant something specific to anyone who had been there for what happened on that date, in that theater, in that particular 12 hours that nobody talked about in open channels. He knew the date. She saw him recognize it. His face did the thing again, the crack, the thing beneath the ice, and this time it lasted a full 2 seconds before the wall rebuilt. "Petty Officer Reyes," he said. His voice had changed. The command was still there. It would always be there. But something else was there now, too. Something rougher and older and less armored. "Stand your men down." "Already done, Commander." "Not what I said." A pause. "Aye, sir." She heard them move again. The posture shift. The formal position releasing into something that was still military but 1 degree less rigid. She still didn't look. The dressing came away in her hands, soaked through, dark, the kind of dark that tells you more than any monitor. She dropped it, called for gauze without raising her voice, and it appeared at her left hand in under 3 seconds because the charge nurse had been watching her hands, not the salute. "Good." "02 sat," she said. 91, the resident managed. He had gotten the gloves on. He was trying to remember that he had training. "BP. 78/50. Low, but holding. For now." She pressed 2 fingers along the left lateral chest wall, following the wound track by feel the way she had been taught to follow it. Not guessing, not approximating. Reading. The wound itself was a through and through, entrance posterior, exit anterior, low enough to miss the heart, but the trajectory had kissed the lung. She could hear it without a stethoscope. The faint wet sound on his left inhale that didn't belong there. "Left pneumo," she said. "Partial. Not yet tension, but trending." Webb made a sound. She glanced at him briefly. His expression had reorganized itself from shock into something that wanted to look like authority, and wasn't quite making it. He was recalibrating. She could see him doing it in real time. The rapid internal negotiation of a man who has built his identity on being the most qualified person in any room and has just encountered evidence that this is not that room. "I can take over from here," he said. His voice was careful, measured, the kind of careful that is really about the speaker, not the patient. "You can assist," she said. Not unkind, just accurate. His jaw moved. She turned back to Voss. "Commander, I need you to stop fighting the restraints. Every time you tense your core, you're increasing intrathoracic pressure on that side. I need you to breathe shallow, slow. Let the left side rest." He looked at her. "That goes against every—" "I know what it goes against." She held his eyes. "Do it anyway." A long 2 seconds. Then he exhaled. Slowly. And on the next breath, his chest moved differently. Still guarded, still controlled, but listening to her instead of fighting her. The monitor's alarm dropped 1 register, not silent, but lower. "Good," she said. "Don't tell me good. Then I won't. Keep breathing that way." She called for a 14-gauge angiocath without looking up from the wound. The charge nurse had it in her hand before the words finished leaving Margaret's mouth. She felt the eyes in the room on her hands. Not just the medical staff, but Voss's men too. Reyes had moved 2 steps closer. Not interference, witness. There was a difference and she understood it. She found the second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, by touch. Cleaned the site, held the angle. "Decompress on 3, she said, to the room and to Voss equally. 1, 2. She didn't say 3, she inserted on the count. The angiocath went in clean. The angle right, the depth right, the resistance right, and the hiss came exactly where it should, a sharp release of pressure that the room heard clearly over the monitor noise. Voss's body responded before his face did, the involuntary expansion of the chest as the compressed lung found space again.